नहीं, वो गलती से लग गया होगा।
Hare Krishna, kindly accept my humble obeisances. Hope you are clear with my audio. Thank you very much.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Nigamakalpatarorgalitam phalam Shukamukadamrutadravasam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamadayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavakaha Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगे राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभयश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim. Yat kripatamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Welcome back to all of you for this morning session. So we will today doing the last two chapters of this particular unit, chapter 13 and 14, which are basically reflecting the same understandings. In chapter 13, Maharaj Rahugana had asked previously that he could not understand all that was explained by Jadabharata. So he wanted him to give a little more deeper understanding. So Maharaj Jadabharata, he replied and gave these wonderful understandings as allegories. After hearing that, Parikshit Maharaj also asked Shukadeva Goswami that he could not understand everything in full, so he wanted to be repeated. So Shukadeva Goswami gave this 14th chapter in which he elaborated these understandings with his own comments as well. So let's try to dwell into this last two chapters. How is this chapters helping us in remaining Krishna conscious? The aspect that should be known here is, as we are living in this material world, trying to think that material world is a place which is comfortable and we can maneuver our different proclivities here is actually very dangerous. The sooner we understand that, the better we become in realizing and tackling the challenges that we have. So in order to facilitate, to make ourselves become aware of the challenges of this material world, Lord Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita had spoken about the designation that he has given to this material world, such as Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam, which is fully filled with Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, and the living entities are suffering constantly with Adidaivik, Adhyatmik, and Adibhautik kleshas. So how that is to be expanded, to be made into a proper narrative, both Jadabharata had used his own imaginations and described it to the best of his extent, something like previously Narada Muni had done that in the 4th canto with Prachetas. Rather, before Prachetas, he had described that to their father, Prachina Barhishat, and explained to him that this material world is a tough place, and any action that we do will have its own immediate reactions and well. So Jadabharat is cautioning King Rahugana to take note of this. So let's try to dwell into these chapters. Like yesterday, we will also read the chapter summary. This is more or less giving us a picture of this whole essence. And then later on, we will describe them. So who would like to volunteer to read today's chapter?
I guess Mataji, would you like to read?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So please go through this.
Chapter 13. Further talks between King Rahugan and Jadbharat. The Brahmana Jadabharat became very kind to King Rahugan and to disassociate him from the material world. He spoke figuratively of the forest of the material world. He explained that this material world is like a great forest in which one becomes entangled due to association with material life. In this forest, there are plunderers, the six senses, as well as carnivorous animals like jackals, wolves, and lions, wife, children, and other relatives, who are always anxious to suck the blood from the head of the family. The forest plunderers and the carnivorous blood sucking animals combine to exploit the energy of a man within this material world. In this forest, there is also a black hole covered by grass, into which one may fall. Coming into the forest, Coming into the forest and being captivated by so many material attractions, one identifies himself with this material world, society, friendship, love, and family. Having lost the path and not knowing where to go, being harassed by animals and birds, one is also victimized by many desires. Thus, one works very hard within the forest and wanders here and there. He becomes captivated by temporary happiness and becomes aggrieved by so called distress. Actually, one simply suffers in the forest from so called happiness and distress. Sometimes he is attacked by a snake deep sleep, and due to the snake bite, he loses consciousness and becomes puzzled and bewildered about discharging his duties. Sometimes he is attracted by women other than his wife, and thus he thinks he enjoys extramarital love with another woman. He is attacked by various diseases, by lamentation, and by summer and winter. Thus, one within the forest of the material world suffers the pains of material existence. Expecting to become happy, the living entity changes his position from one place to another, but actually, a materialistic person within the material world is never happy, being constantly engaged in materialistic activities. He is always disturbed. He forgets that one day he has to die. Although he suffers severely, being illusioned by the material energy, he still hankers after material happiness. In this way, he completely forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you, Anand. Yeah, I think there's a last paragraph also. You can continue.
By hearing this from Jad Bharat, Maharaj Raghugana revived his Krishna consciousness and thus benefited from Jad Bharat's association. He could understand that his illusion was over, and he begged pardon from Jad Bharat for his misbehavior. All this was told to Maharaj Parikshit by Shukadev Goswami.
Yeah, thank you. So before we go into and dwell some of these verses, let's read chapter 14. So some volunteer, please.
Gilia Prema Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, ma'am. Chapter 14, The Material World as a Great Forest of Enjoyment. The direct meaning of the forest of material existence is given in this chapter. Merchants sometimes enter the forest to collect many rare things and sell them at a good profit in the city. But the forest path is always bedecked with dangers. When the pure soul wants to give up the Lord's service to enjoy the material world, Krishna certainly gives him a chance to enter the material world. As stated in the Prema Vivarat, Krishna Bahirmukha Anabhoga Vansha Kare. This is the reason the pure spirit soul falls down to the material world. Due to his activities under the influence of the three modes of material nature, the living entity takes different positions in different species. Sometimes he is a demigod in the heavenly planets, and sometimes a most insignificant creature in the lower planetary systems. In this regard, Sri Narottama Das Thakur says, Nana Yoni Sada Phire. The living entity passes through various species. Kardarya Bhakshana Kare. He is obliged to eat and enjoy abominable things. Tarajanma Tarajanma Adha Pate Yaya. In this way, his whole life is spoiled. Without the protection of an all merciful Vaishnava, the conditioned soul cannot get out of the clutches of Maya. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Manaha Shashthan Manaha shashthan indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. The living entity begins material life with his mind and the five knowledge acquiring senses, and with these he struggles for existence within the material world. These senses are compared to rogues and thieves within the forest. They take away a man's knowledge and place him in a network of nescience. Thus, the senses are like rogues and thieves that plunder his spiritual knowledge. Over and above this, there are family members, wife, and children who are exactly like ferocious animals in the forest. The business of such ferocious animals is to eat a man's flesh. The living entity allows himself to be attacked by jackals and foxes, wife, and children, and thus his real spiritual life is finished.
In the forest of material life, you can see it here.
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay. In the forest of material life, everyone is envious, like mosquitoes and rats and mice are always creating disturbances. Everyone in this material world is placed in many awkward positions and surrounded by envious people and disturbing animals. The result is that the living entity in the material world is always plundered and bitten by many living entities. Nonetheless, despite these disturbances, he does not want to give up his family life, and he continues his fruitive activities in an attempt to become happy in the future. He thus becomes more and more entangled in the results of karma, and thus he is forced to act impiously. His witnesses are the sun during the day and the moon during the night. The demigods also witness, but the conditioned soul thinks that his attempts at sense gratification are not being witnessed by anyone. Sometimes, when he is detected, he temporarily renounces everything. But due to his great attachment for the body, his renunciation is given up before he can attain perfection. In this material world, there are many envious people. There, there is the tax exacting government, which is compared to an owl, and there are invisible crickets that create unbearable sounds. The conditioned soul is certainly greatly harassed by the agents of material nature, but his intelligence is lost due to undesirable association. In an attempt to gain relief from the disturbances of material existence, he falls victim to so called yogis, sadhus, and incarnations who can display some magic but who do not understand devotional service. Sometimes the conditioned soul is bereft of all money and consequently he becomes unkind to his family members. In this material world, there is not a pinch of actual happiness for which the conditioned soul is longing life after life. The government officials are like carnivores, rakshas, who exact heavy taxes for the maintenance of the government. The hard-working conditioned soul is very saddened due to these heavy taxes. The path of fruitive activities lead to difficult mountains, and sometimes the conditioned soul wants to cross these mountains. But he is never successful, and consequently, he becomes more and more aggrieved and disappointed. Becoming materially and financially embarrassed, the conditioned soul unnecessarily chastises his family. In the material condition, there are four principal needs, out of which sleep is compared to a python, python. When asleep, the conditioned soul completely forgets his real existence. And in sleep, he does not feel the tribulations of material life. Sometimes, being in need of money, the conditioned soul steals and cheats, although he may apparently be associated with devotees for spiritual advancement. His only business is getting out of the clutches of Maya, but due to improper guidance, he becomes more and more entangled in material dealings. This material world is simply an embarrassment and is composed of tribulations presented as happiness, distress, attachment, enmity, and envy. On the whole, it is simply full of tribulation and misery. When a person loses his intelligence due to attachment to wife and sex, his entire consciousness becomes polluted. He thus only thinks of the association of women. The time factor, which is like a serpent, takes away everyone's life, including that of Lord Brahma and the insignificant end. Sometimes the conditioned soul tries to save himself from inexorable time and thus takes shelter of some bogus savior. Unfortunately, the bogus savior cannot even save himself. How then can he protect others? The bogus saviors do not care for bona fide knowledge received from qualified brahmanas and Vedic sources. The only business is indulging in sex and recommending sexual freedom even for widows. Thus, they are like monkeys in the forest. Sri Shukdev Goswami thus explains the material forest and its difficult path to Maharaj Parishad. Thank you.
Thank you, Leela Priya Sharma Mataji. So we have tried to understand the effects of being in this material world and how this is compared to a forest of material existence. In the previous chapter also, we had seen the talks between King Rahugana and Jadabharata, especially on the same matter. So I would like you to get into an exercise here today. Take up, do you have a breakout room facility here? Is it possible? Do you do a breakout room?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Have you done that before?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so students are aware of that. As I see, we are 10 students here. So probably we can have 3 groups. So within the 3 groups,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry to interrupt you. Your voice is coming a bit low.
is it better now?
Yes, sir. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. I'll try to speak a little louder. So what I wish to say is now, I think a few more getting added. We are 12. So actually, we are 11 here. So all the 11 will be able to participate in the classes? 11 or 12 of you? Rukmini Mataji, do all of them
Is there,
have the...
Priya Satyabhama Mataji, will you be able to participate?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Mataji. I'm here.
Jagat Mata Shachi Mataji? Jagat Mata Shachi Mataji, will you be able to participate?
No, Mataji, I'm not able to.
Okay. Is this Rasik Priya Sham Prabhuji? Rasik Priya Sham Prabhuji?
Okay, I think what we do is like we can divide ourselves into 3 groups. That will make 3 into 4, 12. So those who are participating, those who are able to join, let them join. Those who are not able to do it, it's okay. So whoever is there available in that group, accordingly, you prepare the 3 groups and add the people to that. Let there be a mix of Prabhus and Matajis so that you can discuss. Or do you want only Prabhus separately and Matajis separately? How do you prefer?
We didn't do like this earlier. We just make we make the groups and we do the activity. We didn't separate Mataji and Prabhujis. So
Okay.
shall we go for 3 groups, Prabhuji?
Yeah, 3 groups into 4.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And then I will try to put what are the groups to be done. You will have about 15 minutes for you to discuss, and we meet back after 15 minutes. And I will tell you for each group what is the kind of question that they will be requiring to look through in those purports or in those translations at least to begin with. Then they will be presenting. You will have to select someone who is going to present on the behalf of the group. And once you already decided that, then the briefing should go on for the next 15 minutes. So we'll have a total half an hour of our engagement. And you can meanwhile prepare the group ready to go, and I will put the questions on the chat. Then afterwards you can ask them to join. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, please.
Yeah. So I'm just preparing my questions for you. In a moment, I will get started.
This is Darukesh Prabhuji. Will you be able to participate?
Yes,
Is it?
Mataji.
I posted for group 1 and group 2, and group 3 is getting ready now. Yeah, group 1, group 2, and group 3 we have referred to. So we are talking between chapter 13 and chapter 14. So that's common for everyone. So the group 1 will be draw some analogies stating greed, lust, anger, and illusion. Suggest how to overcome it through some Shastric efforts. And group 2, why is material enjoyment a difficult path as compared to spiritual path? Suggest your supporting thoughts with some Shastric references.
And group 3, list 10 analogies and explain its significance from chapter 13 and 14 with reference to verses. You need to make total 10. Try to take something which is common between 13 and 14 and list them, and then you can give us the verse references from where did you draw that, and try to explain what that analogy means. Is this clear to all of you? Do you have any difficulty?
Does anybody would like to ask?
So the entire group, we have totally 14 here as I see here. So that will be 13. So 3 groups means almost like 4, or in one group maybe 5. So you can add them.
Okay.
Are you ready with doing the breakout room?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So we will have 15 minutes for you to discuss and extract your positions. Everyone must participate in the group. As I see here, group 1 is Anand Leela Mataji, Jagat Mata Sachi, Priya Satyabhama, and Rasaman Krishna Prabhu. Number 2 is Daruk Krishna Das, Jia Kumari, Leela Priya, and Radha Keshav Prabhu. And group 3, we have Deena Pavani, Gaura Priya, Gita Krishna Prabhu, and Rasika Shyam Prabhu. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 plus 4, 8, 8 plus 3, 11. We had 14, so that means 13 people should be there. Another 2 must be added. So if they are not added, then I will choose and then I'll send them to any particular. Okay.
Is
Fine,
it
let's
Rasika
go.
Shyam Prabhuji?
Okay, in room 3, there are only 2 people. Room 1 and 2, you have 4 each.
Prabhuji, I will have to move someone.
Yeah, please go ahead. So do I have a co-host or someone whom I can move people who are joining a little late now? Can I do
Prabhuji, you
that
can
option?
please check that yes, you would be having.
Yeah, okay, fine. So go ahead. Where are you put up, in which room? I don't see your name.
Um, Prabhuji, I will join room 1.
You join the room where there are less number of people.
Yes, I will join room 1, Prabhuji. In 2, we have 4. 3 there.
You kept the room for 15 minutes, right? Hare Krishna, Antaryami Balaram Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Antaryami Balaram Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Dhanvat Pranam. His Grace Ramakrishna Prabhuji.
Yes, please go ahead.
Prabhuji, we need more time. 15 minutes are over.
How much time more?
At least 7 minutes.
Okay, go ahead. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
We can broadcast it to everyone according to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
text.
yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mataji, can you add me again to group number 2?
Okay, Prabhuji. Uh, So devotees from group 3, all of you have come here. That's good, but we would start in next 5 minutes. So if you want, you can all discuss
No
here.
problem. No problem. No problem. We have discussed already, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I think all of you are back.
Yes.
Okay. I hope you had a good time to discuss and also understand the points that was raised for each of the groups. Okay.
Yes, it was amazing activity. Thank you.
So those who are on the class but they have not kept their cameras on, if I could request you to keep your cameras on, please, so that I could take some good snap of yours and keep it as a record for my classes. Leela Priya Shama Mataji, would you like to keep your camera on? Dinapan or Gauri Mataji?
छोड़ दो कोई बात नहीं छोड़ दो हाँ
Okay, if they are going to join us a little later, I don't know whether they are there right now here or not. Okay, others can give a smile, please. Thank you. Oh, Leela Priya Mataji has just joined. Okay, one more time, please. Give a smile. Thank you. I'm posting it on the group for all of your benefit, and also it will be a memory. Okay. By the way, if I may know, what's the group code that you have? Do you have any group code for this particular session, for the class, for this batch?
No, Prabhuji, I already asked if this is Masad Prabhuji, so he was saying that he would convey, but we don't know.
Okay. Normally for the MI conducted courses, there will be a group code. So we normally assign it like that. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much. Yeah. So Dharat Krishna Prabhu, are you here? I don't see him. So now let's begin the discussion. So your respective representatives will make it. So I'll begin with group 3. So group 3 will first go ahead and present their statements in which we had suggested that they will discuss on 10 analogies and explain its significance with chapter 13 and 14 with reference to verses. So who is representing group 3?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. I am Rasraman Krishnadas representing group number 3.
Yeah, please go ahead. You will have about 5-6 minutes and you can introduce the names of your team members and then your assignment can go on for a debriefing, please. Go ahead.
Okay. Prabhuji, I had 3 other members also in my group. One was Deep Krishna Prabhuji. Then another was Rasit Priya Shama Prabhuji. And last one was Deen Pavani Gaur Priya Mataji. So we total 4 were there. So we have worked out over the 10 analogies from chapter number 13 and 14. So may I start, Prabhuji?
Please go ahead.
So from chapter number 13, first of all, in the text 1 itself, it has been said that about the living entity, that a living entity works very hard day and night and exactly like a merchant. So here, living entity has been compared to a merchant, like a merchant who enters a forest to acquire some articles to sell later for profit. So similarly, living entity is entering this material existence and going into it deep and deep. Okay. However, he cannot really achieve happiness within this material world. So this was the first one analogy. Now the second one is from the text two itself. It has been said that in the forest there are many plunderers, like we have studied in the summary also today. Uh, in the forest, there are many plunderers, dacoits, jackals, and tigers. The jackals are compared to one's wife and children. In the dead of the night, jackals cry very loudly. And similarly, one's wife and children in this material world also cry like jackals. So, here in this analogy, through this analogy, mainly family members, the situation of the family members has been pointed out. How wife and children uh, act in context to the main person, head of the family. Then we have third analogy from the third text. Here about gold, something has been said. Gold is compared to a quickly fleeting fiend, which appears like a meteor in the sky. It displays itself for a moment and is then gone. So here the shine of the gold has been compared to the presence of a meteor in the sky. Whenever it falls from the sky, how it appears just for a flash of a second, then it disappears. Similarly, gold, the presence of gold in our life is there. Its presence just illusions us throughout the life, and ultimately it disappears from our life. But mm, what we do, what we living entities do normally, we are the whole life we are hankering after the gold, possessing more and more gold and other like items. So next analogy is from the text 6 of the chapter 13, and it is saying that since people are trying to become happy within the material world, but this is like trying to be happy in a forest fire. And like in a forest fire, no one can remain happy, can be happy even for a second. So how can one remain happy within the material world? No one need to go to forest to set it ablaze. Fire takes place automatically. Forest fire is not lighted by someone, but it takes place automatically. Similarly, no one wants to be unhappy in the family life or worldly life. But by the laws of nature, unhappiness and distress are forced upon everyone. So, in the just like in the forest fire, no one is there to set it right, set it ablaze. Similarly, in the material world, distress situations and happiness always come as per the laws of the nature, whatever the prarabdha one has. So, according to those prarabdha, one gets happiness, one gets then sad times of the life. But one must not be disturbed by all these things. But the reverse is the case. Then next analogy, fifth one is coming from eighth text of the chapter 13 only. One may want to become very great and powerful in the society, but this is like attempting to climb a hill full of thorns. This is a very nice analogy. While taking it out, I liked it very much, Prabhuji. Um, if you remember last week, I had asked you a question also regarding the same. So, normally, what we do in the material life, we have so many aspirations, we have so many desires to move ahead on the social ladder. Like we have to do this, we have to do that. There are so many things to be achieved. And the end, last moment of the life comes, but those desires, those aspirations remain unfulfilled. And by the laws of the nature, we are compelled to take another birth. So here, moving ahead in the material life has been compared uh, like attempting to climb a hill full of thorns. And how one can climb a hill which is full of thorns? Definitely, every part of the body, whichever will touch those thorns, will bleed, will start bleeding. but we cannot understand that. This is the irony. Next analogy, sixth one, is coming from 14th chapter. In the 14th chapter, in the text one itself, King Parikshit and Shukdev Goswami are conversing with each other. And to a question of King Parikshit, Shukdev Goswami replied. Shukdev Goswami said, "My dear king, a man belonging to the mercantile community is always interested in earning money. Sometimes he enters the forest to acquire some cheap commodities like wood and earth and sell them in the city at good prices. Similarly, the conditioned soul, being greedy, enters this material world for some material profit. So here the situation of conditioned life has been compared to a mercantile person, mercantile community. Like mercantile community is always after money, always running after making some profit. That's why they enter some deep forest to acquire some cheap commodities like wood and earth, so that they could sell them at profits later on in the life to earn material profits. Similarly, conditioned souls also do out of greed. And gradually, what happens? He enters the deepest part of the forest, not really knowing how to get out. And gradually, with the passage of time, the conditioned soul gets entrapped in the material world so much that it's not possible to come out unless and until there is uh, causeless mercy of some Vaishnavas, of some pure devotees. So, this was our sixth analogy. Next one, Prabhuji, is coming from the text 2. From the text 2, sorry, something about uncontrolled senses has been mentioned. In the forest of material existence, the uncontrolled senses are like plunderers. So here, uncontrolled senses have been named as plunderers. The conditioned soul may earn some money for the advancement of Krishna consciousness, but unfortunately, the uncontrolled senses plunder his money through sense gratification. The senses are plunderers because they make one spend his money unnecessarily for seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, hearing, desiring, and willing. In this way, the conditioned soul is obliged to gratify his senses, and thus all his money is spent. The money is actually acquired. Now, the solution is also here given of this problem. Uncontrolled senses have been mentioned and they have been compared to plunderers. Now, what is the solution? This money is actually acquired for the execution of religious principles, but it is taken away by the plundering senses. So, one should understand that the money which is being earned is to, to be spent on the religious principles or on the execution of the devotional services. Okay, next one, seventh analogy is from text number 18. In the text number 18, about Vivaha Yajna has been said something. Vivaha Yajna is compared to a big hill over which one must cross when one is attached to material activities. So when one is attached to material activities, Vivaha Yajna comes as a hill which one must cross. A person desiring to cross over these ritualistic ceremonies certainly feels pains like the piercing of thorns and pebbles endured by one attempting to climb a hill. Thus, the conditioned soul suffers unlimitedly. So, if we refer to the earlier analogy from chapter number 13, 8, from the text 8, there also it was mentioned that in the material world, one desires to be very much great and powerful in the society, but this was like attempting to climb a hill full of thorns. So, similarly, entering a Vibha Yajna has been referred to as something like mm, entering some ritualistic ceremonies and thereafter feeling pains like piercing of thorns and pebbles, and it causes a great pain. Okay, second last analogy is from 20th text of chapter number 14. Here, sleep has been defined. Something has been said about sleep. Sleep is exactly like a python. Those who wander in the forest of material life are always devoured by the python of sleep. Whoever is in the material world is devoured by this python of sleep. Being bitten by this python, they always remain in the darkness of ignorance. And sleep is another name of ignorance. So they are like dead bodies thrown in a distant forest. Thus, the conditioned souls cannot understand what is going on in life. So, sleeping means losing. In another sense, we can understand this way. Sleeping means losing. One who is sleeping is losing. And last analogy. Last analogy is from text number 38. From text number 38, we get to know about the reality of materialistic life. Materialistic life means continuous unhappiness. Materialistic life is equal to continuous happiness. But sometimes we accept happiness as it appears between the gaps. At some intervals, happiness comes and we start taking that as something to be permanent. But it is not the case. Sometimes a condemned person is submerged in water and hauled out. So the situation of that materialistic person who is experiencing this happiness to be permanent, as the condemned person who is submerged in water and then hauled out. Actually, all of this is meant for punishment, but he feels a little comfort when he is taken out of the water. So one should try to understand, try to grasp, and take it very seriously that material happiness cannot, materialistic life cannot give us everlasting happiness, which the devotional life can give us. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Rasaman Krishna Prabhu, for taking that efforts and trying to scan through these two chapters to pick up some important analogies. Very appreciative of you. To the class here, is there any questions? Is there anything that you wish to ask with regards to the 10 analogies that Prabhu had presented? Do you all agree to that? Is there anything that you would like to share about it? So that one point which comes to my mind when Prabhu was sharing is that material happiness is compared to a spontaneous happiness in the material world. And it is just like putting you in the water and then hauling off, or between the gaps you realize this. Yeah, so this is true. I am sure those who are here in this class as well appreciate this point. But yet, this small gaps of happiness gives you such kind of an impetus and inspiration that you want to go behind that, right? So this is exactly used term as ignorance. People who do not realize to go for the real happiness, they tend to settle down for this. Okay. Yes, Rastraman Prabhu, you have something to add?
Prabhuji, I have a question to ask you. May I?
Go ahead.
Prabhuji, like in the analogy 5.13.2, it has been referred to the family members, and family members have been named as plunderers, dacoits, jackals, tigers. So, jackals are compared to one's wife and children. So, it is a bit confusing to me actually. Like everything has been referred in context of a man, head of the family. What about the wife and children? Wife is also a living entity, and children are also living entities. And when one enters a family life, definitely it is the duty over that head of the family, given to him by the Shastras, that he has to run a family. And it is the that is definitely pious duty. So how can one, like myself is also the head of my family, I am also earner of my family, my wife is there, my children are there. So how can I consider my wife and my children as the plunderers of whatever I am earning? It's my duty. I consider it as my duty. Yes, it is my duty to take care of them to the best of my abilities. So it's a bit confusing to me. So please clarify.
Very nice. Good question. Are there any mothers or masters in the class who would like to share something about it and throw their experiences? Are the children and wife jackals or not? So let's hear from uh, enlightened souls. Is there anyone who would like to contest on that?
Probably that is because of our ignorance and our this is basically our ignorance. We have different kind of aspects which are not real.
So Radha Keshava Prabhu is summing up in one point whatever Rasraman Prabhu had stated, that thinking that one's wife and one's husband is a very important person, you're providing and doing their duty, he considers that to be as piece of ignorance. So that's his statement. Good. Radha Keshava Prabhu. Sure, your experience has spoken the truth. Good. Let's hear from Ganga Shakti Mata.
Um, Prabhuji, when the scriptures talk in this manner, we have to understand that anybody who operates at a bodily platform is going to be bad news for himself and herself and for everybody else around. So when we are saying wife and children are plunderers, similarly for a woman, the husband and the children are also plunderers. So when the Bhagavatam is saying wife and children, does not mean wife per se, but it means anybody who is operating at a bodily platform. And if we are surrounded by people who uh, are not willing to move further towards Krishna on a spiritual journey, then we are definitely surrounded by plunderers, because in their association, their motive is obviously to get the most out of us materially. So first thing is this. The other thing is that we have to understand, like Prabhuji asked, that I have a wife, I have children, we all have children, and we have husbands or wives. If our family is a Krishna conscious family, if we have devotees in the family who are trying to serve the Lord and move ahead in Krishna consciousness, we have nothing to worry. Prabhupada has very mercifully given us a system by which we can be in our respective ashrams and still very conveniently and with the help of each other and with wonderful friends around us and association, we can move ahead in our spiritual journey. We have nothing to fear. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. Very nicely summarized, Ganga Shakti Mataji. So when we are allured by the bodily concepts and start to think that those who are around me, attached to this body, are meant for my sense gratification and my happiness, then the concept of plunderers becomes very prominent. But when there is a cooperative spirit and a collaborative method of applying a particular ashrama's principles in the service of Krishna, then there is a question of purification of that ignorance and marching ahead. So you can see similarly, if you draw a circle, there must be a center and there is a periphery. So you place yourself in the center and see on the periphery everyone else related to you, your wife, your children, your uncle, your father, your husband, your society, your nation, and so on. Why? Because you are in the center. So how do we spiritualize this? I move away from the center. I stand on the periphery and bring Krishna in the center. So when I bring Krishna in the center, we all are cooperating for the same spirit of service for the pleasure of Krishna. Then we don't see each other as the plunderers. In fact, Prabhupada actually very laughingly spoke at one time when this question was asked, how should I consider? And Prabhupada, you have conducted our marriage. So how should I understand that wife and children are actually plunderers? So Prabhupada was smiling and saying, not for you. So what does that mean? It simply means that as long as we are very firmly fixed up, just like when you walk on the street and a thief comes and he robs away your pocket and you're not even aware of that. And when you go home, you hang your coat and your son or your wife is picking up the money what you already kept in another pocket. So what's the difference between the two? Both of them are robbing. So therefore, they are considered in the sense as plunderers. I hope you understood that. When a thief robs it, you feel and you should complain, you should find out, you investigate, and so on. But samely, the children come and hug you and say, "Today I have some party, so can I take it?" And you say, "Oh yes, 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 of course, it's for you." So you're agreeing to be robbed. In that way, they are considered to be as plunderers. I hope that gives you an understanding, right? Okay, good. So group one has performed well. Rukmini Mata, you have something to add or have a question on this?
No, Prabhuji, thank you.
Okay. So we move on to group two, and their task has been why is material enjoyment a difficult path as compared to spiritual path? Suggest your supporting thoughts with some Shastric references. Yes. So who's representing group two?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Radha Keshava Prabhu, you are in group two.
Yeah.
So I think
I
the
will
question
be
has
able
come
to
very
ask
rightly. How do you
with
consider the material?
with the grace of Guru and Krishna, I should be able to present it properly.
Please go ahead.
So please bless me so that I could do some service.
I'll pray for you.
You see, I'm mixing these spiritual path and the material path. Two things are there. And here in 14.4 verse, it is said that it is like a herdsman who is trying to keep goats and sheeps, but the tiger comes. It is basically that a man in the material life tries to save his money, but the money is being taken away in so many different ways, and he cries and he feels pain when the money goes, and which is not there when you are in spiritual path. Here in spiritual path, whatever is there, you know that it is of Krishna, and it is being spent for Krishna, it is being earned for Krishna, so you are happy there. And here in material life, you are always disturbed, you are always having anxiety and pains of earning and losing. So these cycles continuously go on. But in spiritual life, neither you are earning for yourself, nor you are spending for yourself. So you are every time in happy state. And next is in material life, you are taking that is an analogy that you are taking shelter of a tree having no fruit. So it means that in material life, you are going to take shelter of the people who themselves have nothing to give you. Nothing to give you. You are depending upon a person who is not dependable, or to whom you should not have taken shelter. So that is the position that you are always in pain because of that also, because you are going to uh, take some shelter, but he is not in a position to give you. So that also gives you pain. And if, 2, 3 times again, Prabhupada has mentioned about Sansara Davanal, Lead Loka, Tranaya Karunya, Ghana Ghanatvam. So this world is like a wildfire, but when you take the shelter of holy name, then you are in a position to come out of it. So 2, 3 times Prabhupada has mentioned this. And this material world is definitely uh, a temporary place, and anything you have here, it will be taken away. And whereas in spiritual, in Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Neha Bikram Nashvasti Prattavayana Vidyate Solpamasya Dharmasya Trayate Mehto Bhayat. And when you take shelter of Krishna in spiritual path, then every thing is taken care of. Because here in material world, Prabhupada said that unless until you become a doctor, with the degree in your hand, only then you are successful. But in spiritual path, at wherever you are, in the next life, you will begin from that. But in the material life, even you become a doctor, next life, you will again start from ABCD, start from the scratch. So that is a very big loss. And in material life, you are working like a ass since morning till evening. गधे को होता है ना गधा, it is like that. So, but in spiritually, once I think someone asked Prabhupada that you are doing this, that, and ultimately, if you know that there is no Krishna, the Prabhupada said, even that there is no loss, because in this life we have enjoyed and we dance and we make merry, this and like that. The spiritual path is certainly wonderful. And in material life, we have enviousness, because everybody is proving that he is the best, and the competition is so much. So if I get something, and I will be temporarily happy, because till the time the other person gets more than what I have. So again, enviousness comes. Okay, happiness comes, then enviousness comes, then this goes and goes and goes. But in spiritual life, the wonderful thing is that if somebody is having more than me, I will be blessed. I will be happy, because even having that thought that so and so person is doing wonderful service, wonderful seva, or is a very good devotee, I also get the benefit of that. Because appreciating in spiritual life, you get wonderful result for your own. So that there is no enviousness, there is all friendliness. And someone says that Shastra says that if you appreciate someone, then definitely you will be getting spiritual benefits. So, and here in material life, padam padam yat vipadam, there are so many. And there, padam padam vipadam na tesha. So there is a very big, you see, opposite side exactly. And we have two famous kathas, Yajatis, who was never satisfied, even taking the youth of his son, he was not. and another is Chitraketu. Chitraketu has so many wives, but he got son from one wife, and that was again killed by other wives. So in material life, you are never satisfied, and he wept. But because of the association of Narad Muni and Angira Muni, he got mercy, and then he was uh, and Mahaprabhu has said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ama bhaje mange vishaya sukh, amrit chhadi visha dibak, ei bada murkh. That is material life. Mahaprabhu says that when he is in material life, then he is asking for vishaya sukh. But he says, Ami vigya, ei murkh. Ami vigya, ei murkh, visha ke mein diva, amrit स चरणामृत दिया विषय भुलाइबा. So what he does is that in spiritual life, that although he is having so many demands and kind of things, but Mahaprabhu, by his mercy, lets him forget all these things. So then he chants, dance, and does spiritual life wonderful. Hare Krishna Boli, Dandapana.
Hari Bol. Very, very nice and sweetly summarized. I recollect from your talk, Anandambudhi Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadhan. That is the essence in spiritual life as compared to Padam Padam Yadvipadam in the material world. Good. So how spiritual life is always a safe boat where the captain is the Guru, the favorable winds are the scriptures, and therefore we can sail through all kinds of material obstructions and reach to our shore where Lord Sri Krishna's lotus feet is the only shelter. Thank you very much, Radhakesha Prabhu. Who was there in your team? You did not introduce us.
I didn't get you.
Who were part of your team?
Yes, yes. My team was Daru Krishna Prabhu, uh, uh, Leela Mataji, and Antaryami Balram Prabhu, and Jia Mataji.
Okay, very nice. Good. Within a short time, you could.
My team was wonderful, so they gave me every hint, so I could speak only because of them.
That's very nice. This is collaborative spirit. Fantastic. You really displayed it. So, anybody has any questions or anything to contribute, anything to share with what Brother Keshav Prabhu and his team have enlightened us now? If there is any points that the individual members need to speak about it, they can also do. Yes, Antaryami Prabhu.
Prabhuji, so the idea is that we all understand. I understand that material life is, it's not okay, and the Lord is not giving us, and He's saying we are fools, but still we are asking. And it's like, when oh when will that day be mine? When I will stop asking that foolish thing. So that's what I mean. The point of contemplation is, that's what a struggle we have, that the materialist, at least they do not know that they're asking for something foolish. But we sometimes we are more unfortunate. We know that we are fools. The Lord Himself is saying that you are a fool, you're asking something which is not okay. We are still asking and continuing to ask. I mean, when will that day be mine?
Very interesting point. So when we become introspective and look at what we are actually doing and how is that actually harmful to us, Even to identify that I am asking a foolish thing itself is the first step in recognizing and then moving ahead with wonderful association of devotees who are better than us in spiritual enlightenment and take their association. So therefore, sadhu sangha is so important to overcome all these different challenges that we have in life. Okay, nice. Thanks for your contributions. So Group 2 has done exceptionally well in their way of putting forward the challenges and try to explain it. Very good. So we go now to the Group 3. So let us understand what is there. They have a lot of tasks to do, and I hope they would have done it successfully as well. So who will be representing from Group 1? Who will be speaking on the subject is draw analogies stating greed, lust, anger, and illusion. Suggest how to overcome it through some Shastric references. Yes, please.
I guess Anani Mataji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Um,
Krishna.
um, I think many of the analogies have been already discussed, quite a few of them by the other group, the other two groups. To be like going over again, I'll just speak very briefly because it was quite, how you say, descriptively discussed just few minutes ago. Like material life is being um, compared to like a merchant walking in a forest looking for success, and we discuss about these plunderers of the household life, how they act like jackal wolves like in a forest, and gold, how it's compared to a meteor in the sky which just flashes and it comes and goes by, and how one is really looking for happiness somehow, and then because this task asks for what are the Shastic references that one can relieve oneself from these miseries or unhappiness, or to say how one is trying to achieve something but not is successful. In chapter 13 text 2, it says that aim of life is Vishnu, and real self, real satisfaction comes when one serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this was also discussed by some of the groups, saying that money should be spent, like in the Purport Prabhupada says, it should be spent on Krishna conscious activities. And also in text 5 chapter 13, it says about how it's a Shastric reference. So one sec. Yeah, it says that Bhagavata is a philosophy that, for people who are completely free of envy, like we discussed, we saw that how the whole material life, people are envious and want to extract from us, and this Bhagavata is the, it says it's is a paramo nirmatsaranam, like it's for those to relieve oneself from all these enviousness. So that's like the Shastric reference to get out of this cycle of birth and death and these miseries. And also in text 7, it discusses, it says about Gandharva Puram, like how a living entity is imagining himself to living in a castle, and he builds up all those things to live in those palatial conditions, but then his all efforts goes in vain in the end. How? When death takes away everything, so it's just in a moment everything is gone. um so that says. And in text 8, Prabhupada writes in the purport that and he refers to Bhagavatam 755, where Prahlad Maharaj is, conversation at Tat Sadhu Manye, there's no benefiting transferring, there's no point going from one forest to another. It's like, we are trying to make houses and enjoy. So it explains that one must go to Vrindavana forest and take shelter of Govinda, and that will make one happy. And Prabhupada writes that one should voluntarily retire for family life at the age of 50 and go to Vrindavan or a forest. He very clearly writes, and also he states that that is why we have we have this International Society of Krishna Consciousness, and we have constructed a temple of Krishna Balaram, and it invites different members to come and live peacefully. So basically, Prabhupada is emphasizing here that how eventually at we should voluntary here, very very clearly he says this word, voluntary retire from family life, even though even if we are living like we discussed also just a few minutes ago, that even while we are living in a family of devotees, still there could be some distractions. That so here I think that's what Prabhupada is emphasizing, that once kind of our basic duties are kind of we are over that, then we should fully devotionally dedicate our lives in the service of the Lord. And also in text 9, Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's reference is given from where it says that Mahaprabhu is saying that I have brought this medicine to awaken every living being from perpetual sleep. I think the group 1 was discussing that how it's like a python going into the sleep. So Mahaprabhu is saying that by chanting this Mahamantra, by chanting this holy name, one can awaken one from that sleep and take to the shelter of the Lord. And then in text 11, Prabhupada in the purport writes that Krishna conscious movement can create an exemplary society wherein there is no envy. So when there is no envy, all these distractions of material world will subside. And in text 19, it says about how by surrendering to the Lord, one can reach back to Godhead. So that's been mentioned here. And in text 21, it says that Satam Prasangan Mama Virya Samvido, like how by the association of devotees who glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and just by a little association, one can become successful in his journey back to Godhead. So in the 19th verse, he's saying going back to Godhead, and then 21st verse, he's explaining how one can go back to Godhead. And in chapter 14, again, Lord, it's been described in text 6 as it's Dukhalayam, and in text 7 it says about like it's all like gold is compared to stool, like everyone is running after that. And in text 9 it says about whirlwind wife is an illicit sex is really is condemned. A lot. Prabhupada condemns that in the purport. And text 10 says Lord helps by taking away, and Lord helps those devotees by taking away everything, and that's how he favors and helps them to come to them. And then in the text 13, like we every day were singing, we discussed this also, the first verse of Guru Vashtaki Samsara Davanal, that we are in the forest fire. So and how one, and this verse in the purport, Prabhupada explains that how one can go get out of this forest fire by approaching Guru, and one from the extinguishing blazing fire. So these are the different analogies which has been, like, actually each verse is an analogy, um, and quite a lot of verses, but in the gist, the to get out what we discussed was like like approaching surrendering to the Lord, and approaching the Guru, following his instructions, association of devotees, one can reach the goal back to Godhead.
Thank you, Anandalila Mataji, for such an elaborate summary of various points and playing the horn along with what Sukadeva Goswami is reiterating here. Good. But I was actually wondering, those points that was given to you as a task, such as to find out those particular perspectives of greed, lust, anger, and illusion Could you find something from those analogies which is reflecting them? And was there any opportunity for you to see? Though all these points, whatever you have referred to, are pretty good, and it gave us an opportunity to go through them. So could you get something from that where you could say that, okay, this was mentioned here for greed, this could be the solution, or for lust and anger and so on? That could be more specific to the question. Was something like that done by your group? And who are all in your group?
Yes, maybe some other members can also contribute. Rukmini, Hari Sevini, Jagat Mata Sachi, Ganga Shakti Mataji, and Priya Satyavama were in the group.
Okay, very
Yeah.
nice. So if the other group members would like to chip in and add a few points there to substantiate. Yeah. Yes, Ganga Shakti Mata.
Yes, Prabhuji, we did discuss a few verses that came to our mind as the antidote to these problems, fighting these anarthas. So, first verse that came to our mind was 262 from Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, "Dhyayato vishya punsam sangas tesho pijayate, sangat sanjayate kama kama krodho pijayate." We found that this verse is very helpful practically because it makes us understand that the moment we contemplate on sense objects, that is where the problem begins. So, like Rupa Goswami also explains, the desires and the thoughts will keep coming. They will not stop because we are conditioned, we are in the material world. So the effort does not have to lie in stopping them. The effort has to lie in stop contemplating over them. Because the moment we start contemplating, the problem begins. Then the other verse that we also discussed was 7:14, which is like the one verse which gives us the way all these problems can be solved. So Devi Eshi Gunumai Mama Maya Duratya, Krishna says, just as if we want to protect ourselves from a dog, we have to approach the master to control the dog. So Maya is so strong that how much ever effort we make, we are likely to fail because she does her service perfectly. So if we surrender to the Lord and if we surrender to her master, then we are very well protected. We don't have to worry. And like we were discussing, that as long as we are sure and clear that spiritual life is our first priority and we have to continue to put our maximum efforts there, we are safe. So that was one. And then even in 9:31, when Krishna says, Name Bhaktya Pranashyati, that's also I find a very hope-giving verse for devotees, because we have to remember that as long as we stick to spiritual life, our interest will be protected in any dire circumstance. So we have nothing to lose. We are in a win-win situation. Krishna will ensure that we keep moving on the spiritual path.
Thank you. Very nicely summarized, and you have also given some quotes from various scriptures, especially from the Bhagavad Gita. Quite a reassuring aspect. That's the way how one can actually overcome greed, lust, anger, and illusion, which is embedded within this material concept of life. And one need to make an effort, and the only way is to take shelter of the Supreme God. Even Manmana Bhava Bhakta is an extremely wonderful verse wherein the surrender is very clearly mentioned over there to get out of this. And also in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 3rd chapter, Lord Krishna speaks, saying that first of all, identify where your enemy is, and that enemy is lust, and its family is greed, anger, and illusion. And to do that, you must identify the places where they sit within the body, such as mind, senses, and intelligence, and then fight it over and become victorious. So these are some very nice points. Thank you for all of your members who have contributed. So, Priya Satyabhama, would you like to speak something on that?
I just wanted to add one point. Ganga Shakti Mataji has covered it pretty nicely, Prabhuji. So, the one thing that I'm remembering is day before yesterday, we had the opportunity to attend a very beautiful talk by His Holiness Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj. So, somebody asked the question, that we have our aspirations and we want to grow in our material life, but simultaneously we want to maintain our spiritual life as well. And so how do you not get distracted by your material aspirations, so that you don't get hit a rock bottom in your spiritual life. So Maharaj, gave a very beautiful answer where he sums it up in one sentence that have friends in your devotional life. If you have friends, they will never let you go, because if you go, they will somehow pull you back. So I think, to summarize here, having devotee association and getting into some service, practical service, and keeping people around you who are going to call you out on your face when you're doing something wrong. So I think these things, keep you so grounded and take care of your spiritual life so nicely that it can keep you in check. You can also, when you know that somebody, you are answerable and accountable to someone as well. So you will also, before doing something wrong, you would question yourself that whatever I'm doing, is that right? So I think these things, it was really nice when Maharaj just summed it up in one line. There will come a time where your friends will come and know you know too much. You cannot go back. So I think this is one thing we can do and we should follow.
Very good. Sadhu
Thank
Sangha,
you.
Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi. Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Koi. So you really put across on this point. And even in this whole chapters that we are reading through, Rahugan also very clearly acknowledged this factor, and therefore he surrenders that it's by the good fortune that I have your association, and by that I'm actually being delivered because of your causeless mercy. So certainly it's a very important point. We should have like-minded friends. So not just choose friends, but we must know the pulse, and we should be able to garner our strength to adjust our kind of imperfections to be overcome in that association. And then it makes it really very, very strong. Pretty good answer. Very nice. Rukmini Mata, you also had raised your hand. You have something to add up to it?
No, Prabhuji, thank you.
Yeah, what I could see from this whole group is not only just Ganga Shakti, but it was Nari Shakti who had very clearly put forward their different points in making it so strongly uh, clear that how one can overcome greed, lust, anger, and illusion in right type of decisions, marching ahead in the right way. Wonderful. So we would take maybe about 5-6 minutes break, and then we would reassemble and sum up the final chapters of a few wonderful instructions coming from 13th chapter and also from the 14th chapter in the last sections. Thank you. So we'll meet you again back in another 5-6 minutes. Hare Krishna. By the way, I should definitely thank each of the group for having contributed so well. And it's a pleasure. I wish to get many nice, wonderful lessons from you. And that's a good inspiration. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So we will sum up the chapter 13 with these nice instructions from Jada Bharata. and submissions from Rahugana is very, very interesting. And we will see some nice points from there. So after having discussed and spoken many wonderful allegories, Jadabharata is completing his instructions by stating, Ataha kathanchit sa vimukta apada punascha sartham pravishati arindama adhvani amusmin ajaya niveshito brahman jano dhyati naveda kaschana. O killer of enemies, Maharaj Rahugana, if the conditioned soul somehow or other gets out of his dangerous position, he again returns to his home to enjoy sex life. For that is the way of attachment. Thus, under the spell of the Lord's material energy, he continues to loiter in the forest of material existence. He does not discover his real interest even at the point of death. So, this is a very strong nail that is being picked through. And therefore, he says the solution. Rahu ganatvam ati advanosya sanyastadhanda kruta bhuta maitra asajjitatma harisevayasitam gnanasim adyatarati param. Gnanasim, with the sword of knowledge. My dear King Rahugana, you are also a victim of the external energy being situated on the path of attraction to material pleasure, so that you may become an equal friend to all living entities. I now advise you to give up your kingly position and the rod by which you punish criminals. Give up attraction to the sense objects and take up the sword of knowledge sharpened by devotional service. Then you will be able to cut the hard knot of illusory energy and cross to the other side of the ocean of nescience. So necessarily this text is stating that in advancement of spiritual knowledge and the ability to face the impediments on one's path, one has to first develop what is called as uh, vairagya, giving up their respective positions. So that when we say respective positions, it's not just only the physical positions, it's also mean by conscious, one should give up those tendencies. And that can be done when one gives up the attraction to sense objects and then takes up the sword of knowledge sharpened by devotional service. Then you will be able to cut the hard knot of illusory energy and cross the other side of the ocean of nescience. So there's a very powerful instruction Jadabharat says, and this applies to everyone. And how did King Rahugana respond to it? It is even more amazing. Rajo Vacha, Ahurna Janma Kila Janma Shobhanam Kim Janma Bhistva Aparairapum Amoshim Nayadrikshe Nayadrishiksheya Yashah Kritatmanam Mahatmanam Va Prachuru Samagama. This birth as a human being is the best of all. Aho Nrujanmat Akila Janma Shobhanam. Even birth among the demigods in the heavenly planets is not as glorious as birth as a human being on this earth. So all of us have been very specially enjoying this particular position of the human body. What is the use of exalted position of a demigod? In the heavenly planets, due to profuse material comforts, there is no possibility of associating with devotees. So first of all, he acknowledges that the birth in the human form in the earthly planet is extremely glorious. Mahatmanam vaya prachura means there is many opportunities and samagama in their association. And this one should actually understand it. And therefore he becomes yashaha kritatmanam. So he should consider himself to be very fortunate. And then afterwards, he offers some extraordinary praise. Nahi adbhutam tvat charanabja renuvel. It is not at all wonderful, oh my dear sage, Jadabharata, that your lotus feet, the dust at the lotus feet, Hatamsho Bhaktir Adokshaje Amala. is being covered by the dust of your lotus feet, one immediately attains the platform of pure devotional service. Muhurtaika, just in a moment of time, yasya samagamachame. Therefore, it is said even a fraction of a second, if one is able to come in the association of the devotees, their glance contains, just like how the Lord Mahavishnu's glance contains everything that is needed for creating this material world. Similarly, the sadhu's glance contains within it how to elevate one to the spiritual world. And therefore is dustarka mulo apatato vivekaha. Now I am freed from all argument, false prestige, and lack of discrimination, which are the roots of entanglement in the material world. Now I am free from all these problems. Dustarka. So therefore, your association has actually very much purified me. So it's a humble submission. And then afterwards, his ecstasy in praising this opportunity that he has got. Namo Mahabhyo Astu Namaste Shubhyo Namo Yuvabhyo Avatubhyaha Ye Brahmanagam Avaduta Lingas Charane Titebhya Shivamastu. I offer my respectful obeisance to the great personalities, Mahabhayo. Whether they walk on the earth's surface as children, Astu Namasishubhyo. Even from a child, we can learn many things. So he has broadened his vision of his satsanga. Wherever there is a glorification of the Supreme Lord with the spiritual content, he becomes very much absorbed in that. Namo Yuvabhyo, even in the youth. Namo Avatubhyaha. And he says about the Avadhutas or the great Brahmanas. So varieties of personalities. Therefore, he had said Prachuraha in the previous verse. This is an opportunity for all of these great saints with whom one can associate. E Brahmana Gam Avadhuta Lingas. Sharaneti Tebhyaha Shivamasturaja. So by their mercy, there be good fortune in the royal dynastities, and that are always offending them. So being intoxicated or infatuated by power, position, fame, wealth, and all kinds of comforts, the royal dynasties sometimes tend to uh, give adequate respects to these personalities. And so he is begging forgiveness on behalf of everyone in the royal dynasty and be able to appreciate all of these. And then Sukha speaks in his last verse here, and two more verses. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, O son of Mother Uttara, there were some waves of dissatisfaction in the mind of Jayabharata because he had been insulted by King Rahugana, who made him carry his palanquin. But Jayabharata neglected this, and his heart again became calm and quiet like an ocean. So, what does this actually mean? Even though Jayabharata was a Paramahamsa, but yet disrespect at the lotus feet of his from Rahugana had agitated him. Was it a material agitation? No. It was actually an agitation of compassion. A compassion that was there deep inside the heart of Jadabharat, that royal dynasties should never neglect those who are on the path of spiritual enlightenment and give them the opportunity to come back home, back to Godhead. That was a small feeling that he had. But although King Rahugana had insulted him, he was a great Paramahamsa. Being a Vaishnava, he was naturally very kind hearted. And he therefore told the king about the constitutional position of the soul. He then forgot the insult because King Rahugana pitifully begged pardon at this lotus feet. So the only way that how we can actually learn is knowingly or unknowingly if we had insulted, offended, or neglected any great personality, be it great sadhus, children, youth, or avadhutas, we should seek forgiveness mentally and physically and take their blessings, good wishes to progress on the path of spiritual life, just like how Rahugana made his way. And because these sadhus purify by their presence all over the earth. And after receiving lessons from the great devotee Jadabharata, King Rahugana of the state of Sauvira became completely aware of the constitutional position of the soul. He thus gave up the bodily conception completely. My dear king, whoever takes shelter of the servant of the Lord is certainly glorified because he can, without difficulty, give up the bodily conception. In this way, even Rahugana was glorified by Sukadeva Goswami in his talk after having associated with Jadabharata. So, after having understood the essence of this chapter, the king Parikshit had something to still request. He then told Goswami, Sukadeva Goswami, my dear Lord, O great devotee sage, you are omniscient, means you are present everywhere and you are adequately well informed about everything. You have very nicely described the position of the conditioned soul and all his struggles in this material world, who is compared to the merchant in the forest. From these instructions, intelligent men can understand that the senses of a person in the bodily conception are like rogues and thieves in the forest. Hmm. Later on in the further chapters, you can also see Narada also instructing personalities. Balaman Indriya Gramam Vidvamshamapi Karishyati. This Indriyas, even though it can be um, engaging us, but it can always become corrupted at any point of time. So it is not that, okay, today I practice something and so I'm very steady on my path. The Indriyas are designed to corrupt and therefore they will corrupt. So one has to take very, very cautious note on that. And one's wife and children are like jackals and other ferocious animals. However, it is not very easy for unintelligent to understand the purport of this story. So, Radha Raman Krishna Prabhu, right? His name was Ras Raman Krishna Prabhu, was putting up this point. How do we actually understand? So, Sukadeva Goswami has put forward the same. And because it is very difficult to extricate the exact meaning from the allegory, I therefore request Your Holiness to give the direct meaning. What exactly is this direct meaning? He is asking this in the end of the 13th chapter. So when we go to the 14th chapter, we will find Sukadeva Goswami expanding this concept, what was previously told, into furthermore and gives clarity. So material world seen as a great forest of enjoyment. स एष देहात्ममणिनां सत्त्वादि गुणविशेष विकल्पित कुशलाकुशाला संवाहर विनिमृत विविध देवा देहाभिभिर्वियोग संयोगादि अनादि संस्वयानुभवस्य द्वारभूतेन सद् इन्द्रियवर्गेण तस्मिन् दुर्गादवाहद् असुगमे अध्वनि अपतीत ईश्वरस्य भगवतो विष्णुर्वासवर्तनीय मायया जीवलोको अयं यथा वणिक्सार्थो अर्थपरस्वदेह निष्पादिता कर्मानुभवः संसवानात् अस्विमतां मयाम् अस्मितमयाम् संसर्पयां गतो नद्यापि विफल बहु प्रतियोगेहास् तत् तापोपशमनं हरिगुरुचरणारविन्द मधुकरानुपादविन् अवरुन्धे. So it's a very long, wonderful, concise understanding that Sukadeva Goswami is presenting. The translation itself is so huge. I want to read that. When King Parikshit asked Sukadeva Goswami about the direct meaning of the material forest, Sukadeva Goswami replied as follows. My dear king, a man belonging to a mercantile community, Vanik, is always interested in earning money. Sometimes he enters the forest to acquire some cheap commodities like wood, earth, and sell them in the city at good prices. Similarly, like the conditioned soul being greedy, enters this material world for some material profit, gradually enters the deepest part of the forest. That means deep kind of uh, uh, what do you call association with the material objects and not really knowing how to get out. Having entered the material world, the pure soul becomes conditioned by material atmosphere, which is created by the external energy under the control of the external energy, the Daivi Maya. Living independently and bewildered in the forest, he does not attain the association of devotees, who are always engaged in the service of the Lord. Once in the bodily conception, he gets different types of bodies, one after the other, under the influence of material energy, and impelled by the modes of material nature, sattva, rajaguna, and tama. In this way, the conditioned soul goes sometimes to heavenly planets, sometimes to earthly planets, and sometimes to lower planets and lower species. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavana Jiva. So there is a Brahmana. Thus he suffers continuously due to different types of bodies he acquires. These sufferings and pains are sometimes mixed, sometimes they are very severe, and sometimes they are not. These bodily conditions are acquired due to the conditioned soul's mental speculation. So coming back to the previous chapters that we discussed, 11 and 12, is the question of mind, where the mind is invested. He uses his mind and five senses to acquire knowledge, and these bring about different bodies. So what is the cause of us to rotate in this material world? Our mind. So at every moment of time, even Antaryami Prabhu was speaking about something of this kind, as to when will I actually acquire that I do not hanker for any material sense gratification. It is only possible when our mind is fully trained and does not deviate. Remember, mind is the captain of the senses. Mind can also overpower intelligence, and mind is a perfect reflection of false ego in all stages of its existence. And therefore, if we have an identity with the material body, itself means that we have actually corrupted. So it's a very strong impediment on the path of our progress. So how do we actually overcome this? Constantly reminding ourselves and changing our concept that I am not this body, but this body is given to me by the Supreme Lord to be his servant. So anything that I try to put my hands on in this material world should always be just with this one concept that Krishna has provided me this body to accept my service. And therefore, everything that is provided to me is meant for his service and satisfaction only. So when we have this clear concept, then mind becomes less corrupted. But yet false ego is not so easy to overcome that. With the slightest provocation, again we come back, again we spring back, as Sukadeva Goswami is speaking over here. And therefore, the solution for that, very strong solution for that is, later it comes down in this particular chapter, he is actually searching for relief, but he is generally baffled. So relief and becoming free from the bafflement can only happen when you choose right association. And this right association is not so easily available. Sometimes, even among the devotees association, we might get some disappointments. Why? Because we have invested our interest to see and exploit others. And whenever there is a self-interest in that, we may become cheated. So then how do I actually associate? How do I decide what is qualitative, what is the quality association in which I will never become cheated? This can only happen under the confidential consultation with your spiritual master. Your spiritual master can help you whom he wants you to associate with. So there should be a consultation. So the baffled situation can get away from the spiritual master's association, and the relief is provided through the proper association you get through the instructions of your spiritual master. Although sometimes he's relieved after great difficulty, struggling for existence in this way, he cannot get the shelter of pure devotees. Again, it is said, he cannot get, who are like bumblebees engaged in loving service with the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. So we must try to get shelter, and it's the rarest of the rarest in this material world. So where do we actually get that kind of a situation in which we can get bumblebee-like association? That is the way and the progress one should actually hanker for. So write down in the later parts, we will see in almost in the concluding section, probably in the verse 41 onwards. We are reading from verse 38. No, not this one. Text 39. Saintly persons who are friends to all living entities have a peaceful consciousness. They have controlled their senses and minds, and they easily attain the path of liberation, the path back to Godhead. Being unfortunate and attached to the miserable material condition, a material person cannot associate with that. So it is furthermore emphasized to bring back to the same point. There were many great saintly kings who were very expert in performing sacrificial rituals and very competent in conquering other kingdoms. Yet, despite their power, they could not attain the loving service of the Supreme Personality of God. This is because those great kings could not even conquer the false consciousness. The solution is over there. The king had asked, how may I actually make my way? Please kindly explain. So he elaborated all these different analogies in different ways, and he's now providing the solution. What is that false consciousness? I am this body, and this is my property. Thus, they simply created enmity with rival kings, fought with them, and died without having discharged life's real mission. When the conditioned soul accepts the shelter of the creeper of fruitive activity, he may be elevated by his pious activities to higher planetary systems, and thus gain liberation from hellish conditions. But unfortunately, he cannot remain there. After reaping the results of his pious activities, he has to return to the lower planetary systems. In this way, he perpetually goes up and down. Tasyedam upagayanti. Having summarized the teachings of Jada Bharata, Sukadeva Goswami said, my dear King Parikshit, the path indicated by Jada Bharata is like the path followed by Garuda, the carrier of the Lord. Here comes the solution. And ordinary kings are just like flies. Flies cannot follow the path of Garuda. And to date, none of the great kings and victorious leaders could follow this path of devotional service, not even mentally. So, another word of caution. Yo dustyajam dara sutan sukrud rajyam hudisprusha jahav yuvaiva mallava uttama sloka lalasa. So there should be a great lalasa for uttama sloka gunanuvada. While in the prime of life, the great Maharaj Bharat gave up everything because he was fond of serving the Supreme Personality of God. Uttama Sloka. He gave up his beautiful wife, nice children, great friends, and enormous empire. Although these things were very difficult to give up, Maharaj Bharat was so exalted that he gave them up just as one gives up stool after evacuating such as the greatness of his majesty. So what is being spoken here? Unless one comes to the point of karmarpanam and then takes up to the path of renunciation, he cannot actually progress further. Yo dishchidan kshiti suta svajanartha daran prarthayam sriyam suravarai sadavalokam naichan ripastat uchitam mahatam madudvit sevanurakta manasam abhavopi phalgu. So phalgu means which is wasted. Sukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king, the activities of Maharaj Bharata was wonderful. He gave up everything, very difficult for others to give up. He gave up his kingdom, his wife, his family, his opulence was so great that even the demigods envied it. Yet he gave it up. It was quite befitting a great personality like him to be a great devotee. He could renounce everything because he was so attracted to the beauty, opulence, reputation, knowledge, strength, and renunciation. The Shad Aishwarya of the Supreme Lord is attracted not just only by words but realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna is so attractive that one can give up all desirable things for his sake. Indeed, even liberation is considered insignificant for those whose minds are attracted to the loving service of the Lord. Yajanya dharma pataye vidhi naipunyaya yogaya sankhya shirase pratriksh ishvaraya narayana haraye nama iti udaram hasyan mrugatvam apiyah samudhajaha. Even though in the body of a deer, Maharaj Bharata did not forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, when he was giving up the body of deer, he loudly uttered the following prayer. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is sacrifice personified. He gives the results of the ritualistic activity. He is the proprietor of religious systems, the purification of mystic yoga, the source of all knowledge, the controller of entire creation, and the super soul in every living entity. He is beautiful and attractive. I am quitting this body, offering obeisances unto him, and hoping that I may perpetually engage in his transcendental loving service. Uttering this, Maharaj Bharata left his body. So, right kind of association, giving up activities in the false conception of bodily engagement, and definitely relinquishing all that is material, which we have been hankering to assimilate or hankering to um, gear them up with us, and then offering great prayers to the Supreme Lord in the path which was shown by the previous acharyas, and within the mind conceiving, and within the heart developing the interest of all the six opulences of the Lord to be the highest goal of one's life, to be able to appreciate that Lord with full of these six opulences. So, if one does that, then one has the opportunity to get himself freed from this forest fire of material engagement. Yayidam Bhagavata Sabhajiti Vadata Gunakarmano Rajarshe O Parishe Bharatasyanucharitam Swasti Ayanam Ayushyam Dhyanam Yashasyam Dhanyam Yashasyam Swargapavargyam Vanusrunoti Adhyat Akhyaistyati Adhinandati Cha Sarva Evayusha Atmana Asasate Na Kanchana Parata Iti. So this is the Shruti Phala, the benefit of hearing Jadabharata's or the Bharat Maharaja's entire life pastimes and his devotional service. Devotees interested in hearing and chanting Sravanam Kirtanam regularly discuss the pure characteristics of Maharaj Bharata and praise his activities. What is that regular discussion of these pure characteristics? Means going into every aspect, because Jadabharata is in the stage of Bhava Bhakti, that means he is on the platform of Raganuga Bhakti. So Krishna has himself acknowledged this. In the previous chapters, we saw how the Lord said, and Sukadeva Goswami began his discussion saying that Jadabharata was the topmost of devotees. So therefore, when we talk of discussion, means every single aspect of character of devotees like Bharata must be analyzed. Analyzed in the sense, how did he develop this kind of an attachment? How was his birth so great? How was that he was selected to become the emperor of this world? How did he follow the instructions of his father Rishabhadeva? How was he empowered? How this characteristic can actually be imbibed within us is the aspect of regular discussions. And praise his activities. So in the discussion class today also we were discussing of praise. So praise is one thing for which you don't need any expenses. Simply use your tongue to glorify the devotees. So therefore, every devotee in this class today is an object of my glorification. Simply because you have underwent this austerity of hearing Bharatanucharitam itself is the right qualification to be glorified. And one's lifespan and material opulences certainly increase. Even without your asking, by such glorifications and acknowledgements, this will automatically come to you. One can become very famous and easily attain promotion to heavenly planets. One may think, why is that I am being again allured with this kind of a material benefits? Actually, they are not called material benefits. They are the fruit of matured spiritual benefit, which simply comes to serve you as servants. It's just available for you. If you want, you use it. If you don't want it, you just give it up or you just neglect it. But they follow you wherever you go. And the benefit of that is, in whichever society you go and you preach, they get the benefit of your opulences. That's the advantage that is being given here by Sukadeva Goswami. Or attain liberation by merging into the existence of the Lord. Whoever has these type of a desires, simply by Bharata Charita, it can all be fulfilled. Whatever one desires can be attained simply by hearing, chanting, and glorifying the activities of Maharaj Bharata. So here it is being told about Maharaj Bharata. That means about the devotee's glory. So within the devotee's glory lies deep in his heart the glory of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there's a very beautiful verse that is used here. Bhrutya Bhrutyanu Bhrutya, that the servant of the servant of the servant is what is the aspect that is being told. I think it was there in the previous verse or somewhere in this chapter. Maybe you can identify that. He says uh, that by becoming his servant of the servant of the servant, I consider myself to be very fortunate. One does not have to ask anyone else for these things. For simply by studying the life of Maharaj Bharata, one can attain all desirable things. Hari Om Tat Sat. So thank you for being attentive in this class to hear and share your wonderful perspectives. So do you all believe, have faith in that words? One need not have to ask from anything or anything from anyone else. All of this will be automatically coming to you. Do you have enough belief in these words? Therefore, your approach to it is not an exaggeration. It is not simply to allure you so that you will continue your next units. It is simply to make you inspired, because studying of Srimad Bhagavatam is at every step we grow and we deepen our footing in the confidence that Krishna is the ultimate protector. And Srimad Bhagavatam is that ship which can take us to the lotus feet of Krishna. Impediments will come, but then we have the greatest ability to cross over it, the skills to cross over it by the depictions that we see from this Bhagavatam lessons and by such wonderful acharyas. So thank you very much for giving your attention. If you have anything in the words just before we close, and as a parting note, if you have something to share, you're most welcome. Radhakesha Prabhu has been waiting for some time to bless all of us. So let us seek his blessings. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhuji, you were discussing about association of devotees, that to whom we associate something we should approach spiritual master. But practically, Prabhuji, it is a question of availability and proximity, both things. Now disciples are so many, and Guru Maharaj's availability, you know very well how much is that, and how to practically see that.
Fantastic question. If you have greed to seek association with the spiritual master, laulyam tatra ekalam mulyam. So lotus feet of Krishna is available through that greed. So if you have greed, Srila Gurudev has invested his mercy at various places and spots and in different personalities. So he also gives us sarvasthya hrudi sannivistaha, and therefore he will give us also intelligence, abilities, and opportunities in which we can associate. So initiative should come from us. The
Wonderful.
water does not go to the seeker. The seeker
Yeah.
has to go to the water if he has to fulfill his thirst. So therefore, what all the opportunities we have. And if you are specifically talking about Gurudev, if you are referring to His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, or if you are referring to His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, so I have seen them that they have specific abilities by which they have created the e-care departments, and they are responsible people. They read your mails and they read it for Gurudev. And therefore, if you have some kind of these clarifications to be done, you will be able to get some information, message, and responses. So have patience and have hope that Gurudev will definitely respond to my call, and he will give me the directions, and you can proceed. And this is how many wonderful devotees have taken up their opportunity to fully utilize this kind of a thing. And at every zone, these great personalities, the saints, have invested their energy in confidential servants who can actually guide without any kind of duplicity. So, what happens is when we are duplicious in our heart, Krishna is more duplicate in the way of making you to become cheated. If our heart is cleansed fully without any kind of, because that's what I'm desiring. I'm desiring duplicity, so I will get duplicity. So Prabhupada often tells that bribery is not something which is a problem. You want to bribe, and therefore you get people who are there in front of you to be bribed. So therefore, if we have, and also in a very beautiful Vedic statement says that for every urge there is a solution. So Nectar of Instruction also says the same. So if we have an urge to actually seek the shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master, so intense, then spiritual master as Paramatma, as Chaitya Guru, he will provide you the opportunity. So we should have that very, very, very strong faith. It may take some time because solutions don't come at your expectation. Solutions comes at the time which is appropriate by the Lord. So you may become frustrated. That frustration only shows your lack of commitment and faith. Shabari had waited for such a long time because her instruction from her spiritual master was Ram will come. So she did not ask when I should have an appointment or which moment I should do it. She waited. Spiritual master said he's going to come, he will come. And what kind of an obligation did Lord Ram did? He did come. And then he offered, accepted her services. So therefore, do not be worried. And moreover, today in our e-world, we have many, many opportunities. Simply get into the forums where disciples are assembling and throw your question, and you will get answers unbelievable. But don't take all the answers to be exactly what is going to go for you. You got to be very, very clear in your rightly applying the intelligence. So opportunities are plenty. Sukadeva Goswami said, Bharata Maharaj said, Prachura. So therefore, have this kind of a confidence that Bhagavatam is opening doors for Prachura. Yes. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful, Prabhuji. Thank you. Wonderful answer. Wonderful. More than wonderful.
Once I actually complained to my spiritual master. I was so foolish. I'm serving in Middle East, and previously before Guru Maharaj's stroke, he was very frequent to Middle East, almost like thrice or four times in a year. Whenever he would pass from one side of the globe to the other side, he would always drop in. And on one occasion, I told Guru Maharaj, I don't get enough services to render to you. What am I supposed to say? Guru Maharaj put his hands on the chin. What? He opened his mouth like this and said, I'm talking about my spiritual master, His Holiness Jayapatakswami Maharaj. I thought you're all cooperatively doing the service. Did I not say like that? So then I realized that he was saying that there are many opportunities to serve me, and I have assigned this task to many people who can actually allocate the services to you. How is that you're not able to get services? And then I was of my opinion with the selfish thought, no, I want something from you. You tell me that I should do like this. So then he said, yes, I will tell you. You go and serve those to whom I have instructed to serve. So that was a profound instruction for me. Mercy is already there, and the opportunities for service is already there. But just because of my, false ego, I thought I should get some personal instruction. So most of the time, the disciples do have this hankering. But the personal instructions are very much available there, what you're supposed to do. Chant your name, chant your holy names, and associate with the devotees. Always follow the regulative principles. Help in furthering the interest of the Prabhupada's mission. These are general instructions for everyone. One should take it as his personal instruction. And in the recent times, our Guru Maharaj is specifically stressing on the point, saying that become good students of the Shastric studies and complete your Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta. He is repeatedly stressing and focusing this, nailing like anything. So therefore, it was, like I would definitely share in the forum. I took this point that this is an area where I think I can do something over there. And therefore, in our congregation, I'm really happy to say, and I request all of your blessings. We have more than 200 Bhakti Shastris and 50 Bhakti Vaibhavas, and there are about 5 to 10 who are pursuing their Bhakti Vedanta courses. So I felt that this is my complete offering to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. I've tried to serve each of them in some way or the other. And though we don't have a temple, we don't have, association like most of you are who are fortunate to be in the temple atmosphere. We have taken to this point to make every house a temple. And that's how we are trying to progress, and kindly bless us that we can do this. So there are many, many opportunities, prachura, and therefore we have great confidence in this instructions of the spiritual scriptures and as well as spiritual masters. So some illustrious aspects that you wish to share, something that your experiences that aligns with our teachings here today.
Prabhuji, these bhakti, these, you see, what do you call it? The preaching at homes, basically. I think this is the best tool. This is better than the temple, because you visit the places, and they get the mercy of all the Vaishnavas who are coming by their service, and this is by rotation. You go sometime this house and sometime that house. This is a wonderful kind of setup, and I think it is more working than the temples itself are doing. You see the temples are not doing, but these kind of setups, bhakti vrikshas and something like that, so they are doing wonderful service. They are making
Yes, time,
huge
place, and
contribution.
circumstances, the spiritual masters use their intelligence and then ensure that all of our energies are properly engaged. As the Guru Ashtakam prayers very clearly explains this, the third prayer, that the Guru engages according to one's disposition, the right way to serve the Supreme Lord. And therefore, we offer our obeisances all the time to the spiritual master. Very nice. Thank you. Yes, Rastraman Prabhu, you have something to add, share?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. I have a question to ask you. Basically, I want a solution to a problem, which personally I have faced so many times, and on daily basis I face this problem, and it's in context to the new devotees who are joining the temple. Prabhuji, ISKCON as an organization has grown up big now. It's not the time of 90s when there were few temples. Now there are so many temples, and the congregation has also grown so big in size. So within the ISKCON, temptations are so many. Temptations of puja la pratishtha mainly. Okay. And new people chiefly are attracted towards them, puja la pratishtha. Instead of going towards chanting the holy names or hearing the glories of Lord and his devotees through Srimad Bhagavatam. So what to do of these temptations? How to overcome these temptations? So please clarify.
This material world is a glaring example. Those who are sincere for the purpose, they get all the opportunities to flourish. And those who are simply like the moth who are attracted to the flame or attracted to the glitter, they fade away. In fact, actually, it is like a curtain. The pure is separated from the impure. So those who are just getting attracted to the external glitter, they cannot sustain. So though Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is appearing as the Karunavatara, and he is preaching, and he is giving us the holy names to be preached to everyone. So the simplest of all the things that we can do is to tell them and engage them in trying to chant the holy names. The temptations are there for those who want to be tempted. The attractions are there for those who want to be attracted. So that is the question of sincerity in purpose. If the sincerity is not there, then one cannot actually make progress. It is not that the temple is creating temptations and attractions. It is the question of the association in which you want to fall in. So there are sadhus here. So Kali Yuga is the best place for one to actually get elevated, much better than the previous ages also. But then, are you keen? The question comes over there. And different kinds of temptations which are there is because you are attracted for the temptation, so you only see that. In fact, to say, there are people who, when they, like how you can see the difference in Mahabharata, Yudhishthira Maharaj and Duryodhana, both were asked by Bhishma to go and find out what is the best thing that you can actually see in this world. Duryodhana comes back and says there is nothing best in this world. Everything is horrible. Because why? He had a full intention of being a horrible person. And Yudhishthira said, what to speak of goodness? I have seen so many things which is actually the question, actually it is making me become very much attracted to the goodness what I see in this world. So it's a question of vision. So when we have, and also it is not so easy that one can take up to the bhakti path on its, just because it's available. It's certainly available, but if you don't have the right qualifications, you may not be able to get it also, even though it is right now available right in front of you. So one needs to really look at that. So therefore, intelligent ways are there available in which you would like. Suppose if you are a preacher and if you feel you have compassion towards the newcomers and you want to take them, then you make the effort. You have the right kind of an alignment with your authorities, and then try to seek the ways and methods within the temple scope, how you can separate those good seekers and give them the opportunity. Like, for example, in the temples, in the Sunday feast, you find every kind of a people. They basically come only at the time of prasadam. They know that this is the time prasadam is going to be distributed. So you find so much of crowd. They don't come for Mangalarti. They don't come for the morning Bhagavatam classes. They just come at the time just before the coupons are distributed, probably. And so many temples have now made it a point that the coupons will be only distributed right at 4:30 or 5 o'clock at the time of Mangalarti. So then what happens is there are many souls who are declined or who are deprived of at least taking Krishna Prasada. So then what is happening there at that temples? There is a free distribution of Khichdi Prasada. Okay, you come at any time, take a bowl of Khichdi and then you'll be happy and go. So there are different ways in which you can do it. So intelligent devotees are doing like that, and grihasthas can actually engage in their local area and bring people to their respective houses and try to give them an opportunity. So there is a lot of opportunity for one can do this. If you fall in the right forum, you will get the right kind of solutions for all of that. So in the place where you are residing, you should consult your authorities, and therefore to take shelter of an authority is so important. If you become puffed up and say that I will do things on my own, there is very much a possibility that you fall down and you will not get shelter also. So one should not do that. Okay. I hope that helps you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So from the, what do you call, the representative of this group, I would like to thank Mayapur Institute for giving me this opportunity, and also ISKCON Rohini for giving me this opportunity. Bimla Prasad Prabhu was exceptionally merciful. He invited me to be of some kind of a help. I don't know whether I actually helped you, but I took a lot of help from you, and I felt myself very much purified in your association. Thank you for this opportunity. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Vananta koti vaishnavrind ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Upasthita Gaur Bhaktavrind ki jai, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you so
May
very
the
much.
light of,
Thank
may
you
the
so
light of
very much,
Bhagavatam be, 1 minute. May the light of Bhagavatam always be in your heart, very brightly lit, and the Lord, not different from the Bhagavatam, be always present to guide you in every circumstance.
Thank you so very much, Prabhuji. It was really nice. It was just a 4 session. It was seeming like that so much we have got in just these 4 sessions. It was so interacting. And really, thank you so very much for this session. And I don't know, but I really want to request you that if you can request it to for the further units also. I will ask His Gurmasa Prabhu for this, Prabhuji, if you allow.
It all depends on Vaishnava's mercy.
Prabhuji, in
So,
case you have time, kindly you can extend it.
What, Prabhuji?
Radhakesha Prabhu was saying that if there is a possibility, I could extend these sessions in the sense like continuing the next units. So that's totally under your course coordinator's discretion. So they would assign, probably they must have assigned someone else also.
I'll talk to him.
If Krishna willing, we can have something also. Okay. And I'm a little busy till the end of this month. I had already informed Vimla Prasad Prabhu because I have a lot of assignments that I have to do to complete my own spiritual assignments that I have in furthering Srimad Bhagavatam itself. So once I'm a little free, sometime in the beginning of March, then I can probably be available for serving wherever I'm called for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Also, thanks for all those devotees who could not participate for whatever reason or whatever was their different kinds of dispositions. I sincerely pray at the lotus feet of all of you for being appearing in the screen, because I don't see this as just students. I actually consider them as my own deities, worshipable deities. Bhagavatam and the devotees are so rare in this world, and whoever appears is an opportunity. Thank you. Thank you very much for everything. Hare Krishna.